How you doing, guys? Hope you're enjoying the videos. If you are, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Uh, guys, talk about baby or young Kyran Durnin, and that's what he was, guys. He's only a baby. Like, if he, they're saying that he's dead, possibly 2 years ago. If he's dead 2 years ago, that means he was the same age as my little boy when he died. That's a baby, so it is. It's heartbreaking, but what I want to talk about is okay, the investigation is taking place to find out what happened and the circumstances of what went on or whatever. But they're saying that there's serious question marks from a social work point of view. But we'll deal with that at a later stage, they're saying. And I'm saying, no, fuck that. We need to deal with that immediately. Immediately, as well as the Garda thing. That's a separate thing. Immediately, we need to deal with these social work problems or childcare uh, uh, policies and the failures in childcare in respect of this from a management point of view. For a start, the CEO of Tusla should be suspended immediately on pay. The management in Tusla and Loud should be suspended immediately on pay. Everybody's going on and saying, how does a 2 year or how does a child go missing for 2 years before it's noticed? Well, I'll tell you how. And all the politicians know how. And all the guards know how. And all the people in Tusla know how. And anybody working in a social work capacity in Ireland knows how. And the answer is this, because for years we've had a problem with child abuse in Ireland, whether it be sexual, physical, mental, whatever. There's been a serious problem with child abuse in Ireland. And with state involved child abuse and child neglect. And the problem continues. And we bring in all these fancy companies like Tusla, which is only really a PR company for the Child Family Agency, which is actually what this is. So we brought in loads of these acts and bills or whatever and procedures, process and procedure. And how this happened is because process and procedure is not followed in childcare in Ireland in Tusla. It doesn't exist. Number one, they don't have enough staff. Number two, it's a toxic work environment where the staff in Tusla are changing over every couple of weeks. There's social workers changing there. But what happened in this case is childcare process and procedures was not followed, because what we know from the newspaper articles is that Tusla had prior involvement with this family, okay, or were involved with this family prior to the child going missing, okay. So we know that the mother took the child out of school in Dundalk and informed the school that the child was going to school in the north or in the UK. Well, immediately, what should have happened in them circumstances, because Tusla were involved, the, the school had a legal obligation to contact Tusla and notify the child's social worker that the child was leaving the jurisdiction. And I believe that the school did do that. That's my own personal view, and time will tell. And I believe personally what happened, and I know this through my own involvement with Tusla at the same time as what was going on, and the same office, may I say, and the same staff and management. So I know what was going on in there because I was actually corresponding with them in writing at the time about some of this stuff, and I had clarifications in writing from a particular staff member in Tusla. Hold on, I'm going to name him, and he can sue me if you like. From Owen Redmond. Owen Redmond, you know we were in communication about this issue, and you know I was flagging it. What was going on in Tusla was every couple of weeks in Tusla and Loud, social workers were changing. There wasn't enough social workers to cover all the cases that was going on. So some children in the care of Tusla in County Loud during that time had no appointed social worker, no allocated appointed social worker. So that means that the handovers that were supposed to be going on from one social worker to another weren't going on. And what I think happened here, and what stands out of it for me, is that the school contacted Tusla. The child didn't have an allocated or appointed social worker at the time. Somebody took a note and put it in the file to say the school had been in contact. And whoever, whatever length of time later it was, that file was appointed to a social worker. When that social worker opened that file, they realised, shit, we haven't been on board here. Better find out what's going on. Better have a meeting. And then we know from one of the other papers that a meeting took place and there was another child, a decoy was brought to that meeting. Well, that wouldn't have happened if there had been a handover. The child wouldn't have went missing if there had been a social worker there to hear that the child was going to the UK for all this to have checked out. So last week when all this story broke and it was upgraded to a murder inquiry, I rang the Tusla office in Drogheda, so I did. And I looked for certain members of staff and I was told that they were sick. They were off sick. I then asked the receptionist about this murder inquiry about this little boy, Kyran Durnin. She said she didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, hold on a minute, you're telling me that this is in the paper and it says there's an incident room set up in Drogheda and it tells saying that Tusla are cooperating with the Gardaí, and yet you don't know about this. I could be a member of the public ringing here not wanting to ring the guards to give them information, and you're telling people you don't know about it. I then started contacting the superintendent's office here in Dundalk, Charlie Armstrong, and he kept hanging up the phone, or his staff, he directed his staff to hang up the phone. Yesterday, I rang through again and I spoke to a guard called Enda Brogan, and he tells me he sent an email for the investigating team to get in contact with me. Like, this is serious stuff. They're saying every bit of information is relevant. Everybody's asking the question, well, how did it go 2 years without being noticed? Well, there's the answer. There is the answer. And this amounts to criminal negligence. So, whilst the guards are saying that there's question marks that have to be answered at a later stage, from a social work point of view or a child protection point of view, that's bullshit. Criminal negligence. The management should be under investigation when it comes to like that they did not follow their own process and procedure. The state agency who are going to court telling courts that parents can't be responsible for their kids because of their blindness or whatever else, and you know the kids would be safer in their care, are failing the children, and children are going missing and getting murdered in their care. 220 children dead in state care. Nobody ever charged with criminal negligence. Nobody ever asked any questions or brought in for interview, because you know what it is everybody wants accountability until you go to lay the blame at somebody's feet, and then they all realize, oh, you can't do that. Sure, she's a sound social worker or he's a sound manager, he's a nice fella. It doesn't fucking matter. He didn't follow process and procedure and now there's a child dead. That's criminal negligence, folks. And that's what's going on. And all the politicians on all sides of government, whether they be in government or in opposition, all know this, so they do. It's disgusting. The whole childcare system needs reformed in Ireland. The Minister for Children needs replaced. The Minister for Children, they're going on about the care about children. The Minister for Children is spending €2.6 million a day on housing migrants, majority male migrants. Meanwhile, there's 4,000 children homeless on the streets. Are those 4,000 children on the streets of Ireland who are homeless, are they vulnerable? And if so, what the fuck is the Minister for Children doing? He doesn't give a shit about your children, so he doesn't. He doesn't care about them. And nor does Simon Harris or any of them in there. They're spineless, self-serving, absolute dirtbags, so they are, and they all need replaced. They should be all jailed for this. Thanks a million, guys. Sorry, I get really worked up. It's a subject very close to my own heart, and it's mad. Like all this going on, like child death and child murder in Ireland has just become so fucking normal. Like,
trivial.
It's trivial. Like, you know, it's madness. We should be all out on the streets. We should be going through the doors of the management up in Tusla, and you know what? We're not. We're just holding little vigils. Poor Kyran. Poor all these 220 children. But what are we going to do about it, guys? What are we going to do about it? When is there going to be accountability? You know, because this is serious shit, so it is. Like, we pay more interest. The government at the moment in Ireland care more about trans rights than they do about child protection. And that's the country we're living in, folks. Is there any wonder why people are starting to feel hatred towards certain groups of society? Because the government are driving that hatred. So it is. Helen McEntee is pushing hatred. She should be jailed. She's a failure. Thanks a million, guys.